Okay, so before we begin, I want you to create a T-chart. On the left-hand side of the T-chart, we're going to be taking notes on mitosis. So as you can see in the diagram to the left, we are starting with one cell here, and we see that they only have one copy, as you can see from the red and the blue. Then we undergo DNA replication, which is where we get this X here. So we're seeing that the one on one side and one on the other. Now, as I go through mitosis, you see that I can separate into two daughter cells that are genetically identical to the parent cell that you see up here. So, the notes that you see here, I want you to write down on the left-hand side of your T-chart under mitosis. So, since mitosis gives you identical daughter cells, mitosis is considered a type of asexual reproduction, meaning that it requires only one individual. So that cell does not need a partner like the way a male or a female would need in order to create a child. So it's asexual reproduction. We know that in mitosis, it undergoes only one DNA replication, meaning that the DNA only copies once. We know in mitosis that we go from one parent cell, as you can see here at the top, to two daughter cells that you can see here at the bottom. So since I'm going from one to two cells, I only undergo one division, meaning that my cell only splits once. We know that since I am creating somatic cells, which are our body cells, then I need my body cells to be identical to the one that they are replacing. Since I'm creating identical daughter cells in mitosis, I get no variation among my cells, which is essential since we're doing asexual reproduction. Now, when you see this word diploid, the part I want you to focus on is the di part. We talked about di when we talked about disaccharides, which were two monosaccharides together. So di meaning two. So what we're seeing here is that when you are diploid, you are a cell that has both your mother's and your father's chromosomes. So that's when you have 46 chromosomes. So this would be in your body cells, you have both your mother and your father's chromosomes, so we consider them to be diploid. Most of the time you will see them written as 2N, N being the number of chromosomes. Now we are moving on to the right side of your T-chart, which is meiosis, as you can see here at the top. Now, meiosis is the new process that we're going to be talking about. So last week when I introduced mitosis, and we talked about how mitosis only involves somatic cells or body cells, I said that this coming week we're going to be talking about sex cells, and in particular gametes. So as you can see here to the left, gametes are the proper name for a sex cell. Just like the way somatic is for a body cell, gametes are for sex cells. Now, as you can see from this diagram, I'm going to be going over the differences between meiosis to mitosis. So meiosis is only occurring in two cells, either the sperm in men or the egg in females. So meiosis is a type of sexual reproduction since you are creating sex cells. Meiosis begins with one parent cell similar to mitosis. But as you can see at the end, that we end up with 4 daughter cells. As I look at the nucleus of each of the daughter cells, I notice that each nucleus has a different copy of the DNA. So mitosis gave us identical cells, but we're seeing here that meiosis is creating 4 non-identical cells. Now, when we look at creating non-identical cells in meiosis, it is essential because we are creating sex cells. So each sperm or egg that is being created in both the male and in the female are essentially different, which is why you can never have a brother or sister who are identical to you or has the identical DNA sequence, because each sperm and egg created is different from each other. There are no two alike. Now, the reason for this variation that we see here is due to crossing over. So I want you to focus on the image here. You see that in the image here, the blue chromosome is crossing over the red. So because of this process, part of the genetic information for one chromosome is switched with the other, as you can see in this image here, where both the X is not fully red, you see a little blue at the end, and the same with the blue, a little red at the end. Now, since I'm going in meiosis and I'm creating 4 cells, I am going to be undergoing 2 divisions, which means that my cell is going to be splitting twice. So you see once here to create 2 daughter cells, and you can see that I still have an X in here because I'm still going to divide one more time until I get just 1 set. And because each side of the chromosome is different, I end up with 2 different daughter cells from each of the cells for a total of 4. Now, since I'm dealing with sex cells, and this is only dealing with either the sperm or the egg, then I'm only dealing with 23 chromosomes. So in body cells, we had 46, but in sex cells, we have 23, because you're needing the other 23 coming from the partner. So the male would need the other 23 from the female, or the female needs the other 23 chromosomes from the male. Now, since it's 23 chromosomes, which is half of 46, they are considered haploid. The HA in haploid comes from half. So when we review meiosis and compare to mitosis, meiosis is a type of sexual reproduction. It undergoes one DNA replication, just like mitosis. Now, this plays an essential role. Since I'm only replicating once, but I am dividing twice, that is why my DNA comes out as 23 chromosomes instead of 46, like in mitosis. You can notice that I'm going from 1 parent cell to 4 daughter cells. And those 4 daughter cells are non-identical, meaning that they are varied or have a variation. And this variation is due to the crossing over of the 2 chromosomes before they undergo division. I just wanted to give you an example what a sperm cell looks like here, and then what an egg or ovum looks like. So sometimes you will see egg, sometimes you will see ovum. So make sure that you include ovum next to egg so that you understand that you are looking at both a sperm and an ovum, also known as an egg. Now, since they are 2 separate cells, each cell only has 23 chromosomes in the nucleus of the sperm and 23 chromosomes in the nucleus of the egg. Now, when the 2 combine, then we say that the 2 have now created 1 cell of 46. So they are going from haploid, 23, to 1 diploid cell of 46 chromosomes. So I just wanted to give you a better example of both the sperm and the egg and how they combine. So you can see here that the sperm is approaching. And as the sperm is approaching the egg, you can see that it's breaking down the cell membrane in order to get in, so that the nucleus of the egg, which has 23 chromosomes, can combine with the nucleus of the sperm, which has the other remaining 23, to make 1 parent cell, which has 46. So as you can see here, as the sperm and the egg combine, they form a zygote. So the zygote is what they call the first original cell. That first cell that contained 46 chromosomes. So this would be your first ever cell or your parent cell. So what they say is that sperm, which has 23 chromosomes, combines with the egg or the ovum, which has 23, combined through a process called fertilization. So fertilization is when the 2 nucleuses are actually combining to form 1. As a result of this fertilization, the parent cell is then produced, and that parent cell is called a zygote. So when we look at the processes that are happening, we see that meiosis had to have occurred first in order to create the sperm and the egg. Then we say fertilization occurred, which combines the 2, both the sperm and the egg. After the zygote is formed, we now have 46 chromosomes. And from that point forward, the cell will then undergo mitosis in order to develop the embryo into the fetus, into the child that you see 9 months later. So I have given you questions 1 through 8. Each question is opposite of each other, and in order to answer each of these questions, you need to go back and use the notes that you took from both the cheat chart and the notes that you took over fertilization. So these questions here, 1 through 8, I want you to write the question, and then underneath the question, write the correct answer. I will be checking these 8 questions when you come to class.